Hoje temos um grande amigo chamado Eric Siu e ele lançou um livro e é isso que vamos falar já a seguir.
Todos os dias o empreendedor tem de efetuar 3 vendas. A venda a si mesmo, a venda à sua equipa e a venda ao cliente. Para que isto aconteça com a maior eficácia possível, precisamos de algo muito forte: marketing. Marketing é a única resposta possível para fazer crescer pequenas empresas que não têm um músculo financeiro para enfrentar os tubarões do mercado. Por isso, a pergunta é: como é que podemos fazer um marketing que seja poderoso e ao mesmo tempo não esvazie os nossos bolsos? O meu nome é Ricardo Teixeira, sou empreendedor há mais de 2 décadas e um apaixonado por marketing. Todas as semanas procurei partilhar estratégias e táticas de marketing que procurem responder a esta pergunta. Bem-vindo ao Kiai Marketing Secrets.
Olá pessoal, bem-vindos ao Kiai Marketing Secrets. O meu nome é Ricardo Teixeira e hoje temos aqui uma grande surpresa, ok? Uma grande surpresa, porquê? Porque trago aqui um amigo que eu conheci há cerca de mais ou menos um ano e meio atrás. E Eric Siu é o protagonista. Eric, welcome and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ricardo.
Yeah, it's always good to have you, especially for the Portuguese audience to know you. So, you have a new book, new, and I think the first one, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I went through the book. And so first I have a question. Why a book of, it's a part of mindset, it's a part of habits, it's a very, I love the book, but why a book of this field and not like marketing? Because it's your main core.
Yeah. I think it's so predictable. The predictable thing would be to say, oh, I'm going to do a marketing book because it ties in with all the businesses that I do. But I think, I'm not here to make short-term profits. I think it's long-term impact, as cliche as that sounds. And, doing a book that really, when you think about esports, is it's trending upwards. Gaming is becoming more and more accepted. It's the book that I would have wanted growing up. And I think a lot of how I'm programmed right now as a human being comes from my childhood. And most of my childhood was gaming, and gaming really helped bring me up. And so I think there needs to be, the 3 billion people in the world that have played a game, at least if a chunk of them understand that they can make a bigger impact on the world, not just in the virtual world, then I think that's great, right? And then everything, I think the building an audience around this will transition to whatever else that I'm doing for the long term. So I'm not really concerned about kind of short-term profits. I think the easier thing would have been to do, hey, let's do a marketing school book. And I think that it would have done really well, but I just think there's a lot of those out there already, but I think this is a unique message. And I think, people say that when you write a book, it's when you have something to say. I don't want to just regurgitate the same things, because a lot of things you hear around marketing, it's the same stuff.
Yeah, the same stuff. That's so cool. So one of the things that I saw and immediately it got my attention was you say, growing up, I was a disappointment in the eyes of my parents. And so then you finish that paragraph saying, I wanted to be free. So what exactly was through your mind on those times, that lead to the book?
Yeah, I mean, those times, I mean, growing up, my parents would take away my keyboard, they would take away my mouse. But keep in mind, when we think about the things that we love, after COVID, we're going to be going back to conferences. We want to connect with other people, right? We want to contribute to something bigger than ourselves. Obviously, we want to be healthy mentally and physically, but we also want to have connection, right? And I had this connection when I played these games. And imagine every time I'd be connecting deeper and deeper, doing amazing things, and then my keyboard gets taken away, my mouse gets taken away. I can't play anymore with the people that I'm connecting the most with. Those are kind of my closest friends, right? And it's just tough. So I think growing up, I had a very big chip on my shoulder to prove my parents wrong, right? And that's largely a lot of what drives me. A lot of the chip on the shoulder. I love it when people, like, again, it comes from childhood, right? Now I use it as fuel. If someone says, if I feel slighted in any way, or someone disregards me, or someone's rude to me, now I don't get really upset about it. I just get really motivated, and I use it as fuel, right? So even though in the moment it feels not so good, I know that long term it's going to be good. So it's weird, like it doesn't feel good in the moment, but I know it's going to be good, type of thing. So anyway, that's what it is.
I totally connect with that, because it's happened like I think it was last Tuesday. Yeah, last Tuesday we had a kind of a house, a room in Clubhouse, and I heard someone saying, in a little bit rude way about the peers that were in the room, like, oh, I don't agree with that. That's horrible. So it was not elegant. It was not, polite, and I felt like I'm gonna punch you.
I love that. So I love that in Clubhouse, right? When people, sometimes I make things up in my head where maybe they're not actually targeting me, but I'll tell myself to motivate myself, right? So sometimes I won't get pulled up on stage, or sometimes I get pulled up on stage and they don't moderate me, right? But it's like that's just like, by the way, I don't think there's anything malicious happening. Sometimes I'll trick my mind into thinking I should motivate myself, right? But I get what you're saying. I think there's a lot of, especially in the marketing world, there's a lot of ego, and there's a lot of short-termism, right? Which is by the way, the reason why the book is called Leveling Up and not Level Up is because leveling up is a constant thing. You're constantly trying to get better. Level up is just you go up one level. So
I love it. It was one of my questions, why leveling up? And so it's a kind of Kaizen. Is it?
Yeah. It's 1% better, leveling up 1% better every single day.
I saw the graph. Yeah. The graph is super cool. Super cool.
Yep.
That's amazing. And so one of the sentence that I saw, and let me read first. The beginning of every game always suck. It's slow, it's boring, and it's hard to see where things are heading. I love this. And so what would be like the first message that you want to pass over the people that are thinking about, okay, this might be an interesting book?
I think it's also so I just talked about the one leveling up 1% better every single day, but also understanding that life, when you think of it as a game, when you think of it as a series of puzzles, it's just way more fun that way. So when I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, all the cliches you hear around, meditation, you have to, work out, you have to, maybe you have to fast, maybe you have to optimize your sleep, all these things. I do all of those, right? But I look at those as power up. So after I finished the meditation, okay, I buffed myself a little bit. I'm a little stronger. Then I filled out my journal. I'm a little stronger, right? I fast. I'm a little stronger, right? So it's like, by the time my day actually starts, I've already buffed myself 7 or 8 times already. So now I'm ready to go, because most humans, maybe they have 1 or 2 buffs, right? I have way more than that, so I have an advantage. So I just look at that as a puzzle. I'm waking up, okay, here we go. My computer's turning on right now, right? And so I think when you look at it that way, life is not so much good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. If you're not happy with your current situation, then, you level up out of it, right? Or you can choose to stay in that current situation, but the current situation you're at right now is because you put in yourself in that situation, right? Any human being on earth that's made amazing things happen, they're at the end of the day, they're just human beings, right? So
that's so cool. And how did the idea came to your mind? Because you told me like you've been writing this for the last 4 years, I think.
Yeah, no. So it's, I think I started it when I was 28 years old. I'm 34 now. So I launched it, basically we'll call it 5 years. It went a little bit into 2021. But I was writing the book on and off. So I was leveling up myself as I was writing the book. And then sometimes I'd read something else. I'd be like, oh, that sounds like good to pull into here. And then I'd read something else, or I'd read another book and I like the format, right? So a lot of the formatting, the designs, a lot of the concepts in there came from me just learning in the last couple of years as well. So I'm a completely different person, because I think, every 5 years you become a different person, right? So I changed, I leveled myself up in the years writing this.
But what was the trigger that made you deciding like, I'm going to write the book?
Yeah, I think it's what I said earlier. I think it's, if you have a message to say, you do it, because I think I have this weird intersection where, esports is one thing and then business is another, and I have the intersection, and nobody has talked about it yet. But yet I know a lot of good entrepreneurs that used to play a lot of games, and they became wonderful entrepreneurs. They sold a couple businesses and they used to compete. And I don't know if you know Derek Halpern, but he came into my room last week for celebration, and then I actually didn't know that we both played the same game growing up. We both played EverQuest, and we were talking afterwards. We hadn't talked for years. He was just saying a lot of his guildmates became really successful people, right? It's because of all the systems, the resource management, the teamwork, all these things that we learn. That's what it is. So I thought this message had to go out there, and I felt in my mind that I had to do it, because again, someone's going to do it. Might as well be me.
Yeah, and you said a couple times about gaming, and it's funny because in the 80s I fell in love with gaming, and so it was very small computers. It took like 5 minutes to load a game. So it was interesting times, but it helped me a lot, and I see that the gaming's, even the book has I'm not gonna say of course because people have to see it, but it also has a game as you read the book. And so you talk a little bit about life gamification, and so and about continuously challenging yourself. That's the sentence. Life gamification. So what would you say? What is exactly the life gamification for you, and how it applies to the people?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, one of the concepts in the book, there's 15 power-ups, right? And I think part of life is going around collecting power-ups. Power-ups could be habits, they could be mental models. So habits would be like having a healthy diet, right? Sleeping, you know, having good sleep, those types of things, right? So you're cultivating good habits, and just like in Mario, you know, if you keep shooting the fireball, at a certain point, sometimes you run out, right? Or if you keep shooting a gun, sometimes you run out, so you have to reload. Or if you keep swinging a sword, you have to repair it. So power-ups have to continually be cultivated. It's just like when you're working out, you're meditating. Just because you did it a week ago doesn't mean you get to not do it today, right? You have to keep it going. I think, you know, I talk about a lot of different habits. I talk about, you know, having to endure, right? You know, having to go through a lot of pain, because that's what life is. That's what entrepreneurship is. Yeah. So that to me is just, again, this comes all the way back to looking at life as a game, a bunch of puzzles, going around collecting power-ups, avoiding the negative power-ups. So, you know, not eating a bunch of junk food, right? Because that could be a negative power-up. But that's what it is. I think very much, you know, when I'm walking around, you know, today I was walking by the water, and I was like, yeah, this is great, because I'm, you know, if I look at it from a gaming perspective, I cast a spell where my mind's clear right now, and I'm only focused on just thinking about things, and there's no agenda, right? So I'm just constantly thinking about, hey, you know, what else can I do to get stronger, to make a bigger impact on those around me? First,
what's the size of your business, and what is your game in your business that is part of your life game?
Yep. So it's an 8-figure business. And you know, what I'm trying to do, like, if you were to ask me what my mission is, it's a very unattainable mission. My mission is to level up the world, right? Because if you were to strip me down to my essence, I'm just a learner teacher. That's all I do. The only reason I've been able to build up the initial podcast, which led to the marketing school podcast and our blog traffic, everything, it's because I keep learning and I keep teaching in public. It's not like I'm trying to become famous or anything. But I also know at the same time, as a marketer, if I build the audience, I'll have a lot of leverage behind it, right? So I don't mind to continue to do it. And it's a very long play. So it's like, okay, Eric, why do you have such a broad mission? Why is it like, because I can wake up every day and know that it's so unattainable, but I can just work towards it a little bit every day. And it can, you know, whoever wants to take on the mantle later, they can, but it gives me something to do until I die. And I think, you know, I can say all the monetary goals, all that type of stuff, right? But I used to, in my early 20s, when I learned digital marketing, I learned kind of the internet marketing, the affiliate marketing stuff, right? And I learned that world. And I think there's a lot to learn from that world, but there's a big sense of short-termism, right? How do I make more money? Look at my Lamborghini, look at my big house, look at my boat, right? But then when I started working in tech, and then I learned from the other world, it's about, you know, thinking about how do we produce the best product for people? How do we retain people for the long term? And that aligned with me a lot more. So I kind of know how to straddle the line between the two worlds and kind of be a chameleon there, right? So
that's amazing. I love it. And so you talk a lot about habits, and you said a little bit, what's your routine in the morning? So people will read it, but let's talk a little bit about that.
So, you know, I'll give you my nighttime routine because it leads into the morning. So I spent, you know, a good chunk of money on sleep optimization. So I have an 8 sleep cover that I put over my mattress. So my mattress is it's a nice mattress. We'll just put it that way, because you're going to spend a lot of time on it, right? So I think it's called Stern and Foster's. That's the name of the mattress. 8 sleep. It goes over my mattress, and it cools my bed, right? It cools my bed, and then at the same time, It also measures my sleep. And then on top of that, I have a ring that I wear. I don't like wearing anything. I don't even wear a watch, right? I hate wearing anything. So, but when I go to bed, I wear an Oura ring and it measures my sleep. So I have two things that measure my sleep, my REM sleep. Whenever I drink it, my sleep goes out of whack.
I asked you that ring because I sometimes I use this and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, get the ring. It's like $200-300. It's OURA. But I have a great air filter and I have a silk sleep mask. And then the final thing I'll say is I put tape on my mouth when I sleep. So then I don't need to wake up to use the restroom or wake up to drink water, right? That's been a big difference. I get 30 more minutes of REM sleep. So anyway, all I'm saying is sleep optimization. Wake up in the morning, I'll keep this brief, meditate for anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes, fill out my 5-minute journal, look at my goals, right? I get on my Peloton bike, usually for anywhere from, could be 20 to 45 minutes. If it's the weekend, maybe 90 minutes, and do a body workout. And that's basically it. I mean, I don't, those are the main things. And I'm already, I feel like I'm good, energetic, ready to go. Mm-hmm. So
have you thought once you have kids, how are you going to change that? Because that's a challenge.
I think I'm gonna have to wake up earlier than them, but I think it's exactly. Tough, right? So I don't know. Like you would know better than I do.
Yeah, it's a challenge because I used to have all that,
Yeah.
Because I came from a martial arts background, so
yeah,
discipline is in me, and to have not that control, it pissed me off,
Yeah.
So how did you react? With myself.
Yeah.
I have to deal with myself because it pissed me off not to have the control that I used to have. So.
I think your only option is to wake up earlier, right? Tim Cook wakes up 3:45 a.m.
I go to bed late. I do the opposite. I go to bed late.
Okay, got it.
You talk about meditation. So, and I don't want to go through a lot of meditation, but what is the role of the meditation for you? What exactly is the role? What do you think is the best benefit that you get from meditation? Yeah. And also at entrepreneurs and people that gonna see what's
I mean, I in front of my computer monitor, I have a turtle. So the turtle basically is telling me to slow down. And even on my phone over here, it says, you can't really see it right now. Maybe, yeah, you can't see it. My thing keeps blocking it, but it says slow down, right? What is the rush? And even I talk fast, right? I've learned to kind of slow down over the years, but just understanding that things take a long time. And when I meditate in the morning, it forces me to slow down. I don't have a choice. I have to just sit with my thoughts. I'm not trying to eliminate my thoughts. I just sit with them. And then I also don't try to judge them. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just, letting it go, right? Because that's what it is. I think when you play, there's a great book, The Inner Game of Tennis. I don't know if you've read it, but when you're playing a game of tennis, right? The judge doesn't care, right? The judge just judge. It is what it is. But one side is happy, the other side is sad, right? But at the end of the day, you're just working on hitting a racket, right? I'm oversimplifying it, but it's just keeping the even keel and just iterating a little bit, right? And understanding that things take decades and not so much years.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like in your book is it's also about taking responsibility, like improving ourselves and not looking to the things that we cannot control. And one of the things that you mention in the book is about absorb the ideas of others, steal ethically from all around you. So so you basically also you tell a lot about being aware of everything and learn to get the 1% better every day, right?
Yeah, I mean, all of these, by the way, there's only 15 power-ups in the book, but there's a lot more in real life. I think it's just getting people in the habit of going around and collecting them. So the entire book is a reframe, right? You can look at it as a habits book. You can look at it as a self-help book. But I think that the key thing, again, is, you combine all those things with looking at life as a game. And I think just like I said earlier, it just becomes a lot more fun. Like even doing this podcast with you, I understand the benefits behind it. I understand the leverage points behind it. It also deepens our relationship as well. There's multiple games being played right now.
Yeah, totally. And I must say, you even though people don't realize sometimes the people that we have in front of us, because eight figures in business is not easy. It's not easy because probably only especially in Portugal, only 4% of the companies do more than 1 million. So it's a tough game. And people don't realize that to get to those levels, we have to work a lot in ourselves. And so what was how was your growth? What exactly did you read, and maybe events that you went to, maybe mentors that you followed? What was the roadmap?
I mean, I failed my way into everything. So, with Single Grain, actually, Neil, my podcast co-host, he was a partner in Single Grain. So I took over the failing company. I was able to negotiate a deal where I didn't pay much out of pocket for it. We're able to turn the company around. Originally it was 5 partners, so 4 including me. And then the 4 decided they wanted out. So then I negotiated a deal to buy them out. And then I actually made the company go from bad to worse. So I failed forward, right? But I always understood the long term here, that if the bet were to work out, I would have unlimited upside and I can use all that cash to reinvest in more durable or more exponential sources of revenue. So that was the roadmap. And along the way, I joined a lot of different peer groups, right? I joined Entrepreneurs Organization. And now I'm in YPO, Young Presidents Organization. These have always been very helpful. I try to avoid the mastermind type of groups because, I know what kind of people are going to be in there. Sometimes I'll join. I've been in some masterminds, but the reason why Neil and I decided to put together our own peer group, I don't like saying mastermind because it has a kind of icky feeling to it. Is because I've been to TED before. I know all these other networks. So I want to put together all these different things and make it our own, right? So fortunately, later this year, we're going to be able to finally bring it back. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed.
I think it will happen.
Yeah.
and to have this growth, of course, the mindset is one of the powers that you mentioned. And of course it plays a great role. We all know that mindset is one of the keys. But if you would say just one thing about mindset, what would you say?
Yeah, I think it would just go back to the whole turtle thing and the whole thinking in decades type of thing. I think most people are just unable to do that because as of this recording right now, the stock market is going down, right? And I'm like, yes, that's exciting, right? But most people, it's just like, oh my God, what's going on? Panic. And I'm just like, I sent Neil a text today. I was like, hey, I sent him a screenshot of all the stocks going down. I'm like, hey, it's time to go on a shopping spree, right? Exactly. And so, but like, if you have a long-term mindset, that's how you look at it. You don't mind, you just hold on to it, right? But like, if you can do that, you're already ahead of 99% of people. But like, it took a long time for me to cultivate that mindset because in my 20s, I wanted everything yesterday. One more thing I'll add around the peer groups. When I joined these peer groups, people in the group where I have my forum, these are 10 people, right? And people were in their mid 30s, 40s, 50s. And, me, I was 26, 27 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. So the key thing is understanding that I didn't know what I didn't know. I don't know what I don't know. I'm just, and these people are teaching me all these things. And now I look at it from that original group of 10, only 2 have broken out of the kind of, where they originally were. The rest kind of stayed stagnant, or some of them completely, imploded, right? And I love everyone in that group, but it just goes to show that, the ones that continue to keep evolving, eventually they figure it out.
One of the key traits that you have, it's about being humble and learn. It's one of the things that really attract me from you, and I feel, even though we haven't been together live, I already consider it as my friend, because it's very, very difficult to find that, to find that humbleness, and you say about what is the right apprentice mentality, which I love. And so if you would say like a story from that apprentice mentality, what kind of story would you pick?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's, by the way, I'll be the first to say that when I used to play a lot of games growing up, I was very arrogant. I was very egotistical because I was scared. I didn't want to be left behind again, because in my social settings, I felt like I was left behind all the time, right? So I wanted to make sure that if I won, I would make sure that I step on them too, to make sure that they don't come back, right? So it was a very kind of defensive type of mentality. And then I think growing up, you hear the same things over and over, right? It's be kind, think bigger, be humble, that type of stuff, right? So what used to interest me in my 20s, whether it's I need to have big house, a lot of money, nice car, and all that stuff, none of that interests me. I just like, when I look at more money coming out, I'm like, more resources, right? More resources to go invest in more people, more to build around. Yeah. So if you want a story around apprentice mentality, I think the easiest thing for me, I've been humbled so many times, right? For Single Grain, when I first took it over, the ad agency, I thought I knew everything because I came from tech. I was like, I come from tech. I'm way better than the agency world. I know so much, right? And what happened? I ate my own words because we dropped all the way down to one employee. My outside accounting firm called me and said, hey, it might be time to shut it down. And it all was because I read a book called Let My People Go Surfing, right? And it's from the Patagonia co-founder. I was like, yeah, let my people go surfing. Don't micromanagement. We dropped all the way down to one employee. Even that employee ended up quitting on me. So at that time, I realized, wow, I really don't know anything and I'm really in trouble. And I actually had accepted a job offer too at that time. But that was when when I was still humble enough to go to my foreman and say, hey guys, things aren't going well right now. And I told them everything that was happening. And then slowly, one by one, they all shared with me the moments that everything was about to fall apart for them, right? At the time, I went through a breakup as well. So they said, Eric, it's always the darkest before the dawn. Hey, I almost lost everything here. This business shut down over here. And I just realized, wow, this is just part of life. And then, from that point on, I've been continuing to create content over the years, but I think instead of trying to be an interesting person, just being interested in other people and just helping them grow and learn and teach, that's what's worked for me, right? I'm not going to say it's going to work for everyone, but that's what's worked for me. And hopefully it'll continue that way because I can easily, see the balance going out of control, right? It's really easy to become egotistical. So I always have to check myself.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I remember when I became the first Portuguese to be world champion in karate. The first week after that, my head would not fit into the door. But anyway, after a week, my first martial arts master called me and put me on the spot, and so fortunately I had that lesson, and so it's really
I think we all need that lesson.
Exactly. It was like a stamp into my mind, so it's so important. So first of all, how can people buy the book? How can they, what's the link? What's the fastest way?
You know what's interesting? We sold $50,000 worth of books on Clubhouse last week.
Wow!
So yeah, we have this. If you go to levelingup.com, you can just learn more about it, and we actually have a bulk order page there, so you can hang out with Neil, myself, or just myself. Cool. We have a lot of different options in there, or you can just reach out to me on Twitter at Eric O, S as in sugar, IU, so at Eric O Siu, or on Instagram at Eric O Siu.
What do you expect from the people that will read the book, and then what would be the result or the things that you really would like that people would do, take action? What's the end game?
Yeah, I think the end game is helping people reframe how they think about life in general, right? Like what I mentioned earlier, life is just a series of levels. You don't deserve to go to the next level until you beat the current one. And it's okay if you don't want to go to the next level, that's fine, right? But just keep in mind, like life is just, you start with, going to school, maybe you build up some great habits, and then maybe you get a job. And then if you want, you can start a business. And just because, Ricardo has a business or I have a business doesn't mean you need to have one, right? It's not for everyone. But also at the same time, it doesn't give you the right to complain. If you're complaining, you can spend all that time doing something about it, right? So I think, there's levels to everything. Like even when you get to the highest level, there's still levels you have to go after, right? Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they're still, struggling, but they're struggling with very big problems right now. Same thing with Bill Gates, right? So Elon used to say that you get paid directly in proportion to the problems that you're solving. So look, you can go all the way up or you can stay where you're at. It's totally fine. You don't need to just try to compete with everyone if you don't want to.
So, by the way, have you seen Inside Bill Gates' Brain?
Yeah, it's great.
Netflix? It's amazing. It's really amazing. So what would be your favorite quote that you use as a guide or something?
It's a tie between Winston Churchill and Zig Ziglar. So it's Winston Churchill's, if you're going through hell, keep going. And then Zig Ziglar, help everyone get what they want and then you'll get whatever you want. Paraphrasing. So
love it. Yeah. And I love another one that you chose for the book from Muhammad Ali, which is, I hate every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. Love it. Let me go from now to Portuguese. Ok, pessoal, pronto. Nós temos o link vai estar aqui por baixo, ok? Ou na descrição. So it's levelingup.com, right?
Yep.
Ok, levelingup.com e basta ir lá, vocês podem ter a oportunidade de estar com o Eric, com o Neil Patel à mesma, tem lá várias coisas que vocês podem escolher, por isso vão lá, cliquem e comprem, vão ver que vai mesmo valer a pena. So, thank you, Eric. Thank you for being here. Thank you again for, bringing this to the world, because it's important, People sometimes don't realize how important this kind of message is. And so, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. Awesome.